بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. I just want to take a minute and give some clarity to some things concerning Ramadan, and the actual thing that's going to be mentioned is coming from the book Umdatul Fiqh by Muwaffaq al-Din al-Imam al-Hafiz Ibn al-Qadam al-Maqdisi rahimahullah ta'ala. When the Shaikh, he begins his Kitab al-Siyam, his discussion concerning the issue of fasting, the Shaikh, he mentions some benefit to help the people understand the nature of fasting. And the book we studied in Yemen called Al-Udda Sharh Umda, which is written by one of the students of Ibn al-Qadama. He explained the teachings of his Shaykh. Then he gave some more clarity to what Ibn al-Qadama intended. Then you have the bigger books and the bigger books, and you have a book below, Umdatul Fiqh, which is normally the first layout, and then Umdatul Fiqh is foundational but lengthy, and then of course then you have the book that explains Umdatul Fiqh Udda. Then you have Barakallahu Fikum Umdatul Ahkam. Then you have, you just keep going until you reach the final book Al-Muqni Ibn al-Qadama, from his particular works itself. So the Shaykh, he began, of course, he has the chapter concerning, we should say Kitab al-Tahara, where he's dealing with the different aspects of purification. He has Bab al-Miyah, the different forms of water, such as the regular water that we say, H2O, snow in the form of ice, then the different natures of water, if it's stagnant, if it's moving, if it has a smell, or odor, discoloration, etc. Then the Shaykh, he keeps going, of course, Kitab al-Salah, he deals with Salah, he deals with Salah fil-Jama'ah, as-Salatu Mada fil-Jama'ah, pray in congregation, Mada Salatu Jumu'ah, Jumu'ah prayer. And the Shaykh, he does with Mada al-Eidain, two salats for Eid, Ramadan, Hajj, Eid Kabir, slaughtering celebration, the Hajj season. Shaykh, he does with Mada Barakallahu Fikum, Istisqa'u, seeking rain, which people don't know about that in this region because we get too much rain, damaging rain, destructive rain that could be considered, as they say, disaster, natural disaster, or catastrophe. But in some regions, like in Yemen, we used to have to pray for the rain, and we would pray, and the rain would come. Just like in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the prayer for rain, salat istisqa, and the salat al-mada, salatu mada, khusuf, eclipse prayer, whether it's lunar, solar, whether it's at night with the moon and the sun, or daytime with the sun and the moon, that prayer. And we prayed that in Yemen. Hakada, like people pray it all over the world. وَكَذَلِكَ بَارَكَ اللَّهُ فِيكُمْ مَاذَا what? Salatu al-Janaiz, the prayer when someone dies. And he keeps going, and then after all of the salawat, yani kitab al-zakat, kitab ma'ba al-zakat, almost aligned with the pillars of Islam, yani al-iman, shahada, hakada, thumma salat, thumma zakat. He mentions the zakat. يعني ماذا وكذلك عروق يعني وكذلك يعني من يجوز إخراج الزكاة لهم who you can give the zakat to وكذلك ماذا الزكاة تطوع voluntary or صدقة تطوع يعني use صدقة when we talk about voluntary. Now, charity that is not from the pillars of Islam, not obligation. Then of course he mentions what you pay zakat on. If you have, for example, 200 camel, or if you have 500 sheep or 200 sheep, or how much you pay on each particular thing. If you have gold, silver, if the silver and gold is for commerce, or it's a gift, or it's the mahar of a lady, her marriage gift, if she wears it or not, all of these things to deal with that. And you have the issue of the warith, inheritance, or wasiyah, to write out for a person in the sense of will. You know, get something after death and before death, and he keeps going. Then he hits the issue of kitab al-siyami, the book of fasting. So the Shaikh, when he gets to that point, he says, yani, وَيَجِبُ صَوْمُ رَمَضَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ عَاقِلٌ بالغ قادر على الصوم. Now, so it said that it is an obligation on every Muslim. Every Muslim. Then he says, yani, aqilun, if a person has the intellect. You know, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the hadith, أخرجه النسائي وغيره, رفع أقلام على ثلاثة, that the pen does not write the sins of three. In the hadith of the Prophet he mentioned al-majnoon, hatta yaqil, and another wording, hatta hatta yufham. Now, the one who does not understand, does not have intellect until he can understand, or the intellect is there. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the sadiq wal masduq. He's the truthful and the trustworthy. So the Prophet mentioned that. Now, Allah Azza wa Jalla, لا يكلف الله نفسا لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah is not going to place on any soul what they're not able. Even if it's difficulty involved, Allah gives you what you can handle. So the one who's majnoon, temporarily insane, or permanently, or temporarily, we say out of his ability to understand, or permanently, or he is severe retardation, and the same thing, Alzheimer's, all of these, dementia, the pen is lifted, meaning he's not obligated in this life. and won't be held accountable in this life for those obligations that normally would be upon him or her, and those people are not held accountable for abandoning those things. So he said, ala kulli muslimin aqilun. Now, in the scholars of Islam, they mention فَلَا يَجِبُ يعني الصوم على kafir, because he said Muslim. So this shows you the opposite. The Muslim is not binding on them to fast. However, some scholars, they said that it's upon them, although they're kafir, meaning they will be responsible for not fasting. Although they're kafir, they will be charged with disbelieving and not doing those obligations that came along with being a believer. So they won't just be punished for being a disbeliever, that's it. But you didn't pray, punishment. You didn't fast, punishment, and so on and so on and so on. Well, the main one is the disbelief, the kufr or shirk. The disbelief and the making partners with Allah. Tabaraka wa ta'ala, wal a'yadu billah. May Allah protect us as the refuge of Allah. Min al-kufri wa shirki, ameen. Wa shu'ubihima, and the branches of them. Hakada. Kabiriha wa sagiriha, the major and the minor. Bima a'lam wa bima la a'lam, what I'm aware of and what I'm not aware of, I seek refuge of Allah from all of those likes of kufr or shirk. Ameen. Walakum jami'an, and for you as well. I seek refuge of Allah for you from that. Tayyib, so back. Yajibu as-siyam Ramadan ala kulli muslimin. The siyam Ramadan. Now, and then again, he said, aqilun, have to have intellect. No intellect, no mental capacity is lifted in this life. And the Prophet mentioned the people who have a test of their judgment who are like that. If they obey, then they will go to Jannah. If they disobey on the day of judgment, then they will go to the fire. And in this hadith, Allah Ta'ala, his Prophet said, Allah will tell them jump in the fire. A real fire, Allah, Jahannam, A'adha. And if they obey Allah, then they would have obeyed the commandments of Allah in this life. Because it's the issue of the qalb, the heart. Wala ghayri, and nothing other than that person's heart. And if they disobey, I'm not jumping in their fire, then they would have disobeyed the commandments of Allah in this life, and they will go to the fire. And this some people could use as a proof that it's not always aqidah, but your obedience to Allah in general. And amalu. Now, as we mentioned before, the fighting about aqidah and action, aqidah, Allah. And how about the one who dies right after shahada? Didn't have any actions, and he doesn't know anything about aqidah, just bore witness, like the Jewish boy. Alhamdulillah, alladhi anqadahu min an-nar. Alhamdulillah, alladhi anqadahu min an-nar. لأجلي وكما قال. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah who saved the boy through me from the fire. خلاص. ما قال الله عز وجل كذا وكذا وكذا. هل نعلم هل في صدره أن الله عز وجل في كل مكان، أو هل في يعني ما نعلم أنه كان يعتقد أن الله فوق عرشه سبحانه وتعالى يليق به جلالته هل نعلم منه أنه يعني ماذا كان في يعني قلبه شيء من يعني الانحراف أو الضيق، ما نعرف هذا. لكن الظاهر أنه يشهد وأقر بقلبه ولسانه ثم مات وله الجنة. هكذا. ما دام خالصا يقينا بلسانه وقلبه فشهادة ماذا فشهادته مقبول. Now, so as long as he was sincere and truthful in his statement and it was in his heart, khalas, shahada is accepted. Hey, so this is important to understand with regards to this issue of deeds. So, فَلَيَجِبُ يعني على كافر. So, some scholars said this means the opposite is understood. Fasting is not upon the non-Muslim, although some scholars said they will be held accountable for not praying, not fasting. In addition to their disbelief, the general rule is وَلَا يَجِبُ الصَّوْمَ عَلَى الْكَافِرِ. It's not upon them. Why? Because they did not take the first step, the shahada. Then the Shaykh, after he mentioned aqilun, he said balighun. Balighun, they must reach the age of puberty or the time of puberty. Age of puberty 15. In Hadith of Ibn Umar, when he wanted to fight in the battle, the Prophet forbade him because he was 14. And the next year he came back, I believe it was Ghazwatul Khandaq, the battle of the ditch, and the Prophet allowed him because he reached at that time 15. He reached 15 at that time. The Prophet ajazahu an yuqatil, an yujahidu, that he could participate in the battle. And then he said at age 15, you were a young man based upon the hadith. Now, as for the other prerequisites of attaining puberty, and some said pubic hair on the private or under the arm, private hair under the arm hair, wet dream, ihtilam, and for the female it is haid. If they get their period, khalas, young lady. And if she doesn't get it by the time she reaches 15, and 15 is the cutoff, she is considered a young lady, just as the boy, if he doesn't become people with wet dream, pubic hair, underarm hair, by 15, khalas, he is a young adult. So it was Solomon, he said, balighun, the opposite of that is as-sabi. As-sabi, the one who was not at the age of puberty, or the time of puberty, because we say time and age. Not a particular age, except 15 is the cutoff, but you can become in puberty at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Some become younger than that, 6, 5, yeah. Yes, sir. It has been witnessed. Tayyib. And the Prophet also, he mentioned in that same hadith about the one who's insane, the pen is lifted, he said, as-sabi. He's in that same hadith, the young child. As-sabi means a young child who has not reached puberty. He or she has not reached puberty. They're considered in Arabic as-sabi. Now, and the Prophet mentioned the pen is lifted from them. So this is why the Shaykh later on, he said, وَيُؤْمَرُ الصَّبِي بِالصِّيَامِ مَاذَا إِذَا طَاقَ, but the young child should be told. This doesn't mean Allah commands him, because we just covered that. He doesn't have the maturity. But here, yu'maru means the parents command him because of training, Islamic development, getting him or her used to it. And they would, as the companions would do, give the children toys, let them fast a portion of the day, a half of the day, a third of the day, like this. Then let them break their fast, eat, in order to train them with a half or the portion of the day fasting. Now, and those children that didn't want to, then they didn't force them. So this yu'maru, meaning, min bab istihbab, from the perspective of recommendation. child in Islamic development. Why? How do we know that? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that for Sabi, it's lifted, so there's no way it can be an obligation if the pen doesn't write the good or the bad of that deed. And even if it wrote the good, it's recommended. And even if he did bad, it doesn't write the bad. Just as they mentioned about the child who makes Hajj before puberty, if he does it right, or Umrah, it's accepted, but she has to do at the get of age, the one that's obligation on every Muslim. So we get rewarded, but there's no punishment if they don't do it, and or there's no reward, meaning if they're insane, and there's no sin on them if they leave it because of insanity. Here the issue was also the young child. And the Shaikh, he said, that is if they were bad, meaning they were a young adult. Qadirun ala sawm, qadirun ala sawmi. That includes feeble, elderly, people who are sick with marad la yurju, al-marad la yarju burh. They don't expect to recover from that. La yarju ma'adha la yarju yes, they don't expect to recover. They call this terminal illness, meaning they won't be healed from that. That's just their case. Someone who has the stage of diabetes, they have to take the insulin. Someone who's dying or has a serious level of cancer, they have to take certain medicines. Or someone who's up in age, they're too weak to fast. So these are the things the Shaikh mentioned. يجب على كل مسلم الصيام رمضان يجب على كل مسلم fasting and صيام Ramadan. The fasting in Ramadan يجب على كل مسلم. It's on every Muslim. عاقل, has intellect, sanity, بالغ, has attained time or age puberty. قادر على صوم. قادر ماذا على صوم. They have the ability to perform the fast. So Shaykh, he mentioned this because the previous nations fasting was prescribed for them. As Allah said, كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. The ayat is clear, as those before you fasting was an obligation upon them. لكن Ramadan خصوصي لهذه الأمة. It is a particular special fast for this ummah. Nobody else was given this ummah. Nobody else was given, this lesson and this special gift of Ramadan except this ummah. And Allah Ta'ala mentioned this in the Quran when he says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينة من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه. Now, so here in the beginning, Allah Ta'ala said, شهر رمضان, the month of Ramadan. And there are many hadiths da'if concerning this issue. Some of them, like the famous hadith Imam Bukhari, he brings it in his Sahih, but he didn't bring it in his Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari as the collected hadith. He brought it to refute that with what's authentic because it's so widespread. So he mentioned that some people, they said لا يقال Ramadan من أسماء الله Ramadan. They said don't say Ramadan because the name of Allah from amongst his names is Ramadan. Rather say Shahr Ramadan. Rather you have to add Shahru. Shahru means month. So don't say Ramadan, say the month of Ramadan. Because if you say Ramadan, this is the name of Allah. You must add month or Shahru, which is month in Arabic. But the hadith in the Bukhari, both of them thought of Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يعني من صام رمضان طيب whoever fasts Ramadan إيمانا واحتسابا, believing in Allah and seeking the reward from no other than Allah, غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه, then all of his past sins will be forgiven. So here the Prophet said, من صام ماذا قال شهر رمضان. Did he say شهر? No, he said Ramadan without saying month. So proof you can say it. And the Prophet he said, "Man Psalm." The Prophet also mentioned, "إذا جاء Ramadan." أيوة. إذا جاء Ramadan. And when Ramadan comes, هكذا. Then he talks about in that same hadith that the devils are restricted, chained away. وفي رواية إذا جاء Shahru Ramadan, and when the month of Ramadan comes. So one he says the month of Ramadan, and he says Ramadan. And these are the Sahih Hadith of Imam al-Bukhari, ردا على من قال لا تقول رمضان فإن من أسماء الله رمضان. Don't say Ramadan by itself, because that is from the names of Allah. Then that hadith is mawdu'ah, fabricated hadith of the wada'i, made up maghluban, a clear fabrication, lie upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger. Here Tabaraka wa ta'ala said, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. أنزل فيه القرآن. نعم أنزل فيه القرآن. The month in which Quran came down. And we know Quran did not come down to the Prophet all at one time. Allah mentioned that. That it did not come down for jumlatan wahida all at one time. Rather it came down over a period of 20 years. And some said 23, some said 20. Why? Because there's 3 years when he was in Mecca that the Quran did not come to him, although he was a messenger. And then he did 10 in the day. And this also, I made a mistake. I said 26 years in one of my durus, that he was prophet for 26. No, I should have said 23. That's a slip of the tongue, 23. 13 in Mecca and 10 in Medina. Mat alayhi salatu wasalam. Umrihi thalatha wa sittun. He died at 63, and this means 40 when he became barakallahu fikum, a prophet, and then he did 23 years of that prophecy as a prophet and messenger. 23 plus 40 is 63 all day long. So that was a slip of the tongue for those who have heard me say he was a prophet for 26 years. Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha ghayruh. Allah forgive me. Slip of the tongue. Tayyib, ala kulli hal, unzila fihi Quran. It means the Quran came down from Allah all at one time during that month to the house in which the Quran is stored. Then Jibril gets it from that house, and he distributes it to the prophet based upon the command of Allah and the different incidents that happen. Al-Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal said, Huda lin-nas wa bayyinatin min al-huda wal-furqan. So here Allah said, Bayyinat Huda lin-nas, Huda lin-nasi. It is a guidance for the people. And some people, they said, this is the same thing that Allah said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدَى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Here Allah said هُدَى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So in this part about the Quran, the Kitab. But here in the ayah concerning Ramadan, it said هُدَى لِلنَّاسِ. It didn't say هُدَى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, like in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. So it appears هُدَى يعني لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, meaning those that will accept Allah Azza wa Jal as their Lord and worship Him, they are the only ones that will believe in the Quran, so it becomes a guidance particularly for the muttaqeen. But in general, it's meant to be a guidance for all of mankind. That's why the Muslim who's born a Muslim, the Christian who accepts Islam, the Jew who accepts Islam, the fire worshipper, the pagan, all of those people can accept Islam and follow their Quran because the origin of Huda al-Nasi is a guidance sent for the people. لكن الذين يقبلونه هم المتقون المسلمون المؤمنون. Then these are the ones who have the taqwa, the believers, the Muslims who actually accept the guidance because they believe in Allah and His book by accepting the call, the invitation to Al-Islam. So the Shaykh, he said, يعني هدى للناس القرآن هو هدى للناس في ذاته. يعني in itself it's a guidance. Without anything making it a guidance, it's a guidance by itself. Within itself, its essence, Quran is a guidance. Then Allah said, وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى وَبَيِّنَ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. So it seems that Allah is emphasizing that this وَبَيِّنَ مِّنَ الْهُدَى, because Huda, لِلنَّاسِ, Huda is here once, talking about to the people, and then it came again, وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. It seems like Allah is to cover already هذا شيء أو يعني توكيدا, that it's emphasized, but it's not, because the Quran is a guidance to the people in general. Then وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى هذا السيادة تفصيلا ولسيما الأحكام والحلال والحرام والعبادات وهكذا. So here وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى, Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, and it has additional clarifications that are needed outside of the general guidance the Quran gives for the people, such as what's halal, what's haram, what's halal. That's particular, that's detailed, that's more than just the regular guidance, that's extra. Or the things that are a wajib, what's obligation, which is part of halal and haram when we think about rulings and legislation. When we think about ibadat, things of the worship, things that make you close to Allah. That's the tafsir. It has more detail, like Allah Ta'ala mentioned, Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim. Okay, that's general. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. That's general. But then Allah Ta'ala mentioned, مَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. Then these are those who Allah is talking about when He says أَنْعَمَ in the Al-Fatiha. Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim is those who obey Allah and His Messenger. Now, And then Allah described them in Anbiya, yani wasiddiqeen, true believers, which some said that also includes Maryam, as Allah called her, كانت يعني صديقة. She was a true believer. وآسيا امرأة فرعون هكذا قال رب ابن بيت عندك في الجنة. She said, oh my Lord, build me a house in Jannah. And she said, oh Allah, build me a house with you in the Jannah. Showing she's a true believer that you will see Allah and be with Him in the hereafter. So these were Siddiqah, true female believers, and the Prophet ﷺ is in the first category. Min al-Anbiya al-Mursaleen, and the Prophet, the Messenger was Siddiqeen, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Now, wa shuhada, those who fought and died in the cause of Allah. It includes those who give dawah, those who strive against the munharifin, wal mushrikeen, wal kafirin, wa ahl al-baghi, wal bid'ah, wal yani غير ذلك من الفساق, those people corrupting the religion of Allah. Then that person is considered mujahid, teaching and fighting propaganda and falsehood and hakada. The shuhada, he dies like that. Simon shuhada, he's from the shuhada. Was-salihin, and the general believers, وَحَسْنُ أُولَئِكَ رَفِيقًا. These are the best to be in the company with in this life and in the hereafter. Here. So, Huda al-Nas, Quran is general, as a guidance in itself for everybody. And then Allah said, in the Huda. This is not emphasizing or saying it secondly to add light to it, but it's actually bayina means tafsir, having extra things or things that need to be clarified, as the first Huda al-Nas is general, and then the second bayina or bayina to min al-Huda, further clarification of some things that Allah mentioned in His book. Bayina min al-Huda. Now, then was Furqan. The last point was Furqan. Well, Furqan, they said al-Furqan yufriqu bayn al-haqqi wal-batil. Yufriqu bayn al-haqqi wal-batil. It distinguishes between haqq and batil. So Furqan, yani ma'adha, it is something to separate, to distinguish, to put each thing in its proper place as it relates to what is haqqa and what is batila, what is the truth from falsehood and the falsehood from truth. Now, so lastly, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever here, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ, شَهِدَ, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ. Shahida means to witness. And sometimes that means physically there, you've seen it, you heard it. Sometimes the word shahida also means to pass something on. Like Rasulullah mentioned, ala huwa qawl zur, or qala shahadatu zur. You're bearing false witness. You're saying something that's not true. Why? Because you got it from somebody. Or you yourself, you're not telling the truth, so you're bearing false witness by passing on information secondhand. It's not true. So here, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Whoever, and here the ulama, they said, shahida, here بمعنى فَمَنْ حَضَرَ. Whoever is present. فَمَنْ حَضَرَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ. You change shahida to witness, to see, and replace shahida with hadira, hadira. So here, to be present. Man hadara minkum shahra, whoever is present from amongst you when the month comes, what? Falyasumah, then let him fast. So the ulama, they clarify that, making you understand that here, shahida doesn't mean the ayuni. You look, you see it, you fast. You don't look, you don't fast. You don't see it, you don't fast. No, it means whoever's present and the knowledge reaches him, then he fasts. And that's why lastly the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Yani sumu bi ru'yatihi wa aftiru bi ru'yatihi. Now, fast when you see it and break it when you see it. So there's three positions as it relates to this issue of seeing it or not seeing it. Here, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, fast if you see it. When you all see it, fast, and when you see it, you all see it break. You're fast. So here, because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, in another hadith, he said, and in part of this same hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, in another hadith, and part of the same hadith, he said, فَانْغَمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَانْغُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَانْغَمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. You have two, وَالضَّمَّ الْفَتْحَةِ فَقَدِرْ لَهُ فَقَدِرْ لَهُ أو فَقَدِرْ لَهُ. Now, وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ تَيِّبٍ. So we'll stop with what's going to come next. So here the Prophet he said, fast when you all see it, begin in Ramadan. In other words, and break it when you all see it, end in Ramadan when you see it. And he said, وَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ وَإِنْ غَمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. Now, and if that sky is cloudy, or if that sky is white, or if that sky is gray, or if that sky is overcasted, the sky itself is doing the action. What is it doing? Making it invisible. It's making visibility impossible. Or your eyes, when you look, the sky is affected by you looking, meaning your eyes can't see it. Either way, it's the same thing. You look, you can't see it. You look, the sky doesn't allow you to see it. It's cloudy, it's overcast. Maybe it's there, but you can't see it because it's overcast, like the curtain being down. You don't know if someone is behind the curtain or not because the curtain is drawn. If the curtain is open, say, hey, somebody's standing there. The curtain is open, say, oh, nobody's standing there. How? The hilal, the crescent is there, you can't see it because it's not clear skies. The hilal didn't show, hadn't been clear skies, you can look and say, oh, it's not there. وَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ وَإِنْ غَمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَقَدِرْ لَهُ أَوْ فَقَدِرُوا لَهُ. Now, so here, the word فَقَدِرُوا, قَدَّرَ, has two meanings. One, it means to count, and the other one, it means to count, and it also gives the meaning to if something is difficult for you. So count, or it's too difficult to count. And this is what presents a problem, which way you look at قدر or فقدر له. If it's too difficult to see, or you count if it's over cloudy. here, if you take the meaning, it's too difficult to see, then some would say the sabab al-ihtiyat. Ihtiyat here means basically you take a chance, or you guess, or to be on the safe side. That's what ihtiyat means, the ihtiyat. So just as a precautionary measure, because the two different wordings, or the two different meanings, Umma alaikum, Ghamma alaikum, and then Faqadir Allah, Faqadir Lahu, then some have said, well, you can't see it, treat it as if it's there. Treat it as if the cloudiness wasn't there and you looked, you could see the hilal, what would you do? You would say it's Ramadan. You would pray tonight, fast tomorrow. So some said treat it like that. And this is common in the method of the Imam Abi Hanifa. Now, treat it like that. Fast. Then that, as a precautionary measure, just in case it's Ramadan, then I'm fasting, because we've been commanded, if you live to you're present and the month comes in. So it came in, but we don't know, we're not sure because we can't see, we're going to fast. As opposed to you see it and you fast, or you don't see it with clear skies, so you complete 30 days. It's overcast, mean fast anyway, as if tomorrow's the first. That's one opinion. Then the second opinion, you can fast or not fast. You could treat it as a precautionary measure. Since I can't see it, I'm going to fast anyway, in case tomorrow it is. And you can treat it, I didn't see it, I'm not sure, so I'm not going to fast. And this is understood by other texts. And then the third position is don't fast. You don't fast, because for some he said, and another hadith giving you the explanation too, faqadirullah, to count, assume, or faqadirullah, faqadirullahu, or faqadirullahu, or faqadirullahu, to count, or to treat it as something difficult. So take your choice of fasting as a precautionary measure, or leaving it as a precautionary measure. Then the third opinion is don't fast. So you have the first opinion, you must fast because you don't know, maybe it's there, and you've been commanded, if you live to witness, meaning the month comes in, fast. So just because we don't see it, we don't know if it's there or not, let's pretend on the safe side it's there, fast tomorrow. All those overcasts, so you can't see it. Second opinion, do either or. Either fast as a precautionary measure, or don't fast completing 30 days of Sha'ban to be on the safe side. And then you have the last one, not to fast, definitely complete 30 days, because the Prophet said, Ikmal Sha'ban 13, then complete the month 30 days. These are the three positions with regards to overcasting, gray skies, white skies. You don't know if the crescent is there or not. And the first one is from the Madhab Imam Hanafi. Now, where you should treat as if it's Ramadan because you don't know. And they said if you come out and you find you were right, then some of them said you'll be rewarded, and others said you won't because you weren't sure. And if you find out that you were short, then you must make it up, make that day up. For example, if you were right and then you were wrong, and then the month did 29, and you've seen the hilal, that means you fasted 28 days, and you fasted too early, and you owe a day, so you have to make that day up on the back end. Hakada. Now, and also some of them said if you found out you were right later on, you still don't get rewarded because you were not sure. You have to make that day up as well out of Shaikh. And others said you will be rewarded if in fact if it comes to show that you were fasting and it was Ramadan, but because the Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ikmal Sha'ban Talatin, then this would be in opposition to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and many have said you will not be rewarded for that. Wallahu musta'an. هذا والله أعلم صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So going back in the end, we said fasting the month of Ramadan is an obligation to every Muslim, number one. And the opposite, scholars have mostly said, therefore it's not an obligation, or the opposite, the non-Muslim, the kafir. They said, for those who are present when the month comes in, not necessarily to look and see it with your own eyes, it's not what is meant by the ayah. Number two, the person must be sane, have intellect, must be also young adult, pubit, and must be able physically, mentally to fast. Number one, again, we said the Muslim, all of the Muslims, Ramadan is an obligation upon them. And scholars said the opposite means the non-Muslim, it's not binding on them, although we said there's a difference of opinion. Some said they will be charged for not fasting, just as they were charged for not believing, but most scholars said fasting is not upon them. This is why the Imam said on every Muslim. Number two, that Muslim must have the intellect, ability to understand, comma, pubit, maturity, comma, ability physically, mentally. Well, I should say no, not mentally. We'll cover that. Physically, meaning his body, because of strength, physical ability. Then the third thing we said that the ayat, whoever shahida means hadara, doesn't mean witness with the eye, means you witness the month, meaning you live to see it, you're present when the month comes in. Number four, we said that also this, the Prophet ﷺ said, when you see it, fast, and when you see it, break it. But this hadith is talking about the issue of a narrator as opposed to the knowledge of the narrator. The knowledge of the narrator and the narrator, they both are part of fasting. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean that you're not obligated to fast when the knowledge reaches you. And we forgot to mention the hadith of Ibn Umar. He was the only one who seen it and told the Prophet. The Prophet told everybody to fast. As for breaking it, then the Prophet did mention, and we will all see it, break it, but all of the scholars say you need two just Muslim witnesses to break it, because if you break it too early, then there's a sin on you, and you have to make up the day. So it requires two for the breaking, while one is accepted for the starting. And then we said, number five, Quran. Allah mentioned that the month of Ramadan, Quran was revealed. Number six, the month of Ramadan and Ramadan, both of them you can say it. Those that say Ramadan from the names of Allah, that hadith is fabricated and it is not correct. Number seven, the Quran was sent down in Ramadan all at one time, meaning not to the Prophet, but from Allah Azza wa Jal to the particular house where it's stored until Jibril gets it and delivers it by request and command of Allah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 8, the Quran, Huda lin-nas, it's a guidance in general for whoever accepts it. And then Allah said, وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى, it's not emphasizing saying the same thing a second time, but it's actually talking about details that are needed for the general guidance that's mentioned in the first part of that verse. Number 9, Allah Ta'ala said, Furqan is that which yufraqu bayn al-haqq wal-batil. It distinguishes between what is truth and falsehood. And we also said, number 10, that the issue of looking and it's overcasted has more than one meaning. Some say that when you can't see it, then because you've been commanded, if you live and Ramadan comes in, treat it as if it's the first night and the next day fast. Others said you have a choice to treat it overcast as if it's the first night and fast tomorrow, or you have the choice to not treat it like that and complete Sha'ban 30 days. And then others say, no, you must not treat it as if it's Ramadan, only you complete the 30 days based on the clarification of the Prophet ﷺ. And inshallah ta'ala, these are the 10 points. So, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, la ilaha illa huwa astaghfiruhu alayhi. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.